Okay guys, 911 SOS here. It's install day. So I've taken this out of the car. I'll give you a brief overview when we actually go into the car on the easiest way of getting this unit out. So this is the unit now fitted in the car. If you can have a look here, this is the old unit that I still quite like. It's obviously got a DVD player, and I did like the turn volume on this. It's got the internal maps, but it's just out of date, and it's just, you know, the sound quality wasn't that good either, but main reason is it's just, you know, it's 10 years old now and it's just out of date, and it's very weighty, so obviously a lot of components in there. But even though this unit is a lot lighter, it's not really a detriment to the actual unit. A lot of the components that are in the old one are just not in the new one. They're not required, and they've slimmed down electronics, as you know, over the years. Phones have got smaller and smaller, and same applies to these. Okay, so this is what I've fashioned up, a little fascia plate. So this is the one that came with it. You can have a look on the back here. You'll see that these tabs here, these were little spikes, and if you remember when we looked at it last time, there were two separate parts. With these little spikes, all you do with this, you just hold them down in place, and with a soldering iron you just melt them in all around, and it fixes it to the required plate that you've selected. Like I said before, I've got another plate on order, so this is a temporary measure, so I've had to just put some little rubber edgings on here just to fill it out a bit so it doesn't look kind of ridiculous when I put it in the car. And I'll show you quickly how that's going to look. That just slots in there, and I'll obviously have that clipped in. So yeah, essentially that's the unit. Not too bad. I did obviously talk about it having it set in. Not sure whether that's the right option, but tell us what you think. Leave your comments. I don't think that looks too bad. Be interesting to see how it looks in the car, and it's at that stage that I'll go through all the different ways that I fitted it. For instance, how it slots. This frame was all it didn't come with the unit, but it came with the old unit, and it's just a doubled in frame, and all I've done is fashioned that into there by bending over these tabs here in various areas. All these tabs around the sides where you can get access, you can just bend them in. It's very solidly in there. Never had any issues with it in the past. Got all the wiring rigged up there ready to go, and then obviously the main harness to go into there, the Wi-Fi and the GPS. USB is sitting in the car because that's kind of fashioned in already. Okay, so let's go and have a go at fitting it in the car. Okay, so this is the ISO cable that I need to just make some slight adjustments to. So what I've found is that on this particular, on a Porsche, this yellow cable here is your constant or permanent live. This orange is your illumination, the black is the ground, and down there the red is your ignition live. So when your ignition is turned on, that sparks that up live. But the connections that it's failing to have is a pink, which can go in here, which corresponds to the black and blue wire in the Porsche model anyway, which is your reverse. As you can see, it says on there reverse camera, so that'll be the live for the reverse camera. And then the other thing I want to do is the amplifier live. So the amplifier live goes under here in that pin there, and that corresponds just underneath the orange, basically underneath the illumination. That corresponds with the amplifier setup in my car, which is actually a white cable. So what we're going to do is solder them. So what I've done, as I mentioned earlier, I did have a few, I had two of these ISOs. I had an ISO A and an ISO B. With the ISO A, the live, the constant live and the ignition live were in the opposite sides. That was the only difference on that reel, so that's obviously for a different type of vehicle. Apparently this is the most common, but obviously this is the way the Germans do it. So what I'm going to do is on here we're just going to solder it up. We're just going to slide a bit of heat shrink over there, slide that down out of the way, and then I've prepared the white, because on my car it is a white that it goes into, but it's I haven't got a blue, otherwise I'd just use blue. But I've taken the pin, which is a very simple process. You literally just in there, you get a very thin spike pin or anything, and you can just put it down where you can see the gap down there, where you can see next to the actual connection there's a little hole down there. You just slide a little pin down there. All it does is it pushes out something that extrudes, that stops it from coming out, and you just whip it straight out. So it's that simple. So I'm now just going to solder that to there, get it linked up. Best way of doing this that I've found is having some sort of crocodile clip system onto a hard surface, because then when you apply your soldering iron like that to the wires, you've got a surface to push against, otherwise you've got nothing to press, and obviously you've got heat dispersion and things like that. There's issues with that not working correctly or as fast as I would like anyway, and then obviously you get a decent connection because it's all put across these 2 points here. So I'll rig that up and show you later. So there you go, 2 seconds later you can see there's a very neat solder on there. I'll just move this along over it. Now it's cooled a little, and all I do with this is just use the heat I've already got in the soldering iron just to shrink that on. No need for a heat gun or anything like that. Okay, so here is the finished article. I just put some wiring tape around that just to keep it nice and neat, keep all these straggling wires out of the way. And as you can see, all the connections are in now exactly where I want them, which if you spin that around, see over here your pink, which is your reverse camera going to the black and blue, remember, and then underneath at the back there you've got your blue going into that pin underneath this orange illumination wire, just there, that one, and that blue is for your amplifier live. Okay, that's it, all done. Okay, we're in the car now. You can see that's the aperture that the original unit came out of. Looks like there's quite a lot of wiring back there, but it's really not as bad as it seems. These particular wires are just all your auxiliaries. like your wipers, heaters, that type of thing. So they just go down, they plug into the side units there. You'll see them when we put them in. So I've taken the liberty already of putting there's a little space up there. I've put the GPS up there. This car actually has got a GPS antenna, but the connection's completely different. And like I said before, I'd like to have the vehicle so that you can actually just put the original PCM2 unit straight back in. I've done the same over that side. If you can see, there's a space up here, and that's where I've put the antenna. I've stuck that on the side there for the, get a bit more light in there. Yeah, I've stuck that in the side there, as you can see. That's the Wi-Fi antenna. So the reason I've done that, put them in those spaces, is because this entire space here and up the top there, which is where your heater mechanism goes, needs to be completely clear. So everything has to run through these side areas like this, or literally through this aperture here, so that when you put your unit in, all the wires go down the back there. And I've tidied them up a bit, put a bit of a sort of foam around them and a bit of wire tape. I haven't finished doing that job yet, but essentially that's it, ready to go. And like I say, as I go through, I'll explain how I took this unit out and the easiest way of doing it, because it's there are easy ways and hard ways, but we'll have a look at that in a moment. Before we start, a little useful tip is just one of these for about £1 or something like that. The thick brown wire is usually the earth. That's something you can check with a multimeter or whatever, but if you put it onto there and just clip it to an earth, you'll simply be able to just go through here and find the different lives. There's nothing live in this car at the moment because I've been sat in it for a while, so it's auto switched off. But for instance, that there, the red, is obviously alive. Oh, there you go, it hasn't auto switched off. That is alive, so you can see that. So that's really useful for when you're looking down here and you're fitting this connection here which goes into the ISO, like I was speaking about the other day. It's got the black and blue wire there. Obviously you've got your red wire, your lives and things like that, but you can literally put it into reverse and you'll find that your black and blue live wire light, you know, the light basically will light up because it's gone live. So you can test all of that before you kind of get it all into place and rig it up. So I've got all the wires, everything that needs to be essentially plugged in. There's a sub wire here going to an amplifier that powers the door speakers. Just a simple way of getting around, because this unit used to actually be a MOS optic fiber unit, so therefore it didn't have any cabling. All the cabling needed to be rerouted right to the front, where the amplifier is actually in the same place. You can actually amp up, you know, get a 5.1 system and amp up the whole car, but it's not really required. We'll see the sound quality once this goes in, but as long as you've got some bass units in the car, you should find that the sound quality is sufficient. So let's have a go then at wiring it up. So this is the unit with the face taken off it. That obviously clips onto there. So I've taken that off so I can get access to the back here. So this is going to be audio in from something that I'm going to be doing later on to this car. So you'll obviously see that in another video. So what I'll do now is just plug all these wires in get that all clipped up, plug all the wires in, place the unit in there, and we'll talk again. Okay, that's the wiring all plugged in neatly down the back, just slotted it in. You can see with these Porsches that basically all we need to do now is we're going to fit the fascia panel onto there, plug all these different connections in, making sure that you've got the right ones in the right place. You can actually see on the back there that they're colour coordinated anyway, so you'll be able to follow that quite easily. They're already in that frame. Then essentially it's a matter of testing it. This unit here, this is actually the easiest way of getting these units out. When that clips on there, it clips on with these 4 different connection points. You can see the corresponding points here and here, and the same on this side. And if you get your fingers underneath there with a little bit of leverage, making sure not to twist it too much, so hold it kind of there and pull it, you'll find that you'll be able to clip those out quite easily either side. These connections tend to be quite stiff to get off, so I use a little pry tool just to give them a little bit of leverage kind of in between there, just lever them out. And then this, before you take this whole unit out, this has to come out. It just literally slides in, that's your heater. So this back edge goes into a socket. This is why you can't have any of the wires along the top here. It's all got to fit in nicely into there. But all you do is, if you know where these are, these little clips like that push down, you just get a screwdriver in there and just gently push them down either side, and that will literally just slide out. 4 screws removed, the whole unit comes out, obviously removing all your cables, which a lot of the cable removal, to be honest, seems to be the most difficult thing to do on these cars. So let's get it rigged up and do some testing. That's interesting, it switches the video off the minute you go onto the phone, obviously because of voice recording, so it won't let you play music. Kind of makes sense, but you can see on here I've got, this will be CarPlay, front camera there's going to be on there, DAB radio, that wasn't DAB, that was just normal radio, the DAB radio will be even better, Google Maps. How cool is that? So much facilities on here. Equalizer is just immense. There's like program after, oh no, bugger, that's the trouble, isn't it? If you're not careful, you move things. Time correction, so you can alter all the delay of the speakers, different hertz that the speakers come in at. So for instance, you know, cut out the bass so that they're not, you know, which you do with your front speakers for positioning. So you can go co-pilot, driver, that's the wrong way around, but I can fix that. Rear, so that's where your speaker preference is. I like the sound of it on all. Bass, I've tried using that, but didn't really like the effects. And then you've got the sub, that's my subwoofer, that's the range, so you can alter the exact range and the volume levels of it, and that seems to be a really decent range now. What else is the gallery? So you can download any photo you want. So the one I've got on the screen is that the Joker, but there's all sorts on here. There's Porsche things like that. Go through. You can have any of these. coming up on your screen. That's leather. I know you can't see that, but you can see it in the car. You can set any of these as the screen. That looks pretty cool on the screen when you set that to screen. That's what I've got at the moment. So for instance, if I go there, touch that, he looks cool, doesn't he? Right, let's go back to gallery and put the original back on screen. I think the light might be a little bit better now. Let's see if you can get a really good picture. If you could see how clear the Joker looks. That was a bit too slow there. The Joker, he looks so cool. You just can't see the definition on here, but when you get in the car and you turn the radio on and the Joker's just there, ultra cool. So yeah, super happy with this audio unit now. Sounds awesome, does what I want it to do, got CarPlay and everything, so ultra cool.